Okay, I had one of the most ridiculous games I've had in a long time, facing this Mir 8R1, and I'm very much hoping that this recording goes through. At the end of the recording, I'll have the deck list up on the screen, so stick around for that if you're interested. So he won the dice roll. As always, I'm playing Sliver Queen, and in this case, he's playing Boral of the Hull Clade. So this was my hand, and it seemed perfectly keepable, so I did. And he gets going first, turn 1 Soul Ring. It's always a scary start to face, but I figure I could catch up with Chalice. Shouldn't be too bad, depending on what happens here. And what happens here is he gets a second Soul Ring. So now it's not too good at all, actually. So I left Muddle up, just in case he was going to try to draw cards here. And you can see that with that amount of mana and some card drawing, I'd pretty much be toast, is what I figured. But as it turns out, he is going to draw cards. It's just not going to be something I can muddle. So I kind of wished I had developed there. So boom, 2 cards for him. The Soul Rings are basically free. And I go ahead and tap out and try to catch up on development, on the board at least. And he plays Stolen Identity, so really good when you have a double Soul Ring draw with a Consecrated Sphinx. So he gets to make a token of his Sphinx, and then every turn his creature is ciphered, so he gets to clone another artifact or creature every time he hits me with that. So he hits me with it, makes yet a 3rd Soul Ring. I'm going to go ahead and minimize his commander. And then plays Beastmaster Ascension, so few attacks, and his guys are going to be fairly large, all of them. And he's probably going to have a lot of creatures, since he's drawing 5 cards a turn now. So I drew a Hinder. Just a little late to the party on Hinder. And Muddle for Demonic Tutor. And Demonic Tutor for pretty much the only hope that I can have at this point, which is to clear off the Sphinxes and then try to recover. And I thought for a long time there about whether or not I wanted to get Terminus directly or put it on top of my deck with a search spell, but figured it had to be this way. So he now plays Jace Memory Adept, and then Grafdigger's Cage, and hits me for 6. So good thing I didn't go put it on top, the Terminus that is. And this is what I lose: land tax, a bunch of lands, Tithe, Fabricate, Relic. Actually not painful at all. In fact, possibly helpful. So 2 counters on Ascension go up. And he gets a 4th Soul Ring. And a Seedborn Muse. So basically, if he has a counter spell, I lose. That's pretty much what it comes down to. And at this point, he's 19 cards deep, 20, 21, 22, 23 cards deep. So what I figured is I certainly can't wait to try to back this up with a counter, even though I do have the counter. He'll just be even further along. So I figure I'm going to go for it. And bottom line is, if he has a counter, I lose. But if he doesn't, that tells me he probably isn't playing them, and I can play the rest of the game accordingly. And it appears he does not. So, yeah, all I have to do now is deal with his 14 mana and 2 cards a turn. And his Jace and Garrick. And the Beast token. So I search in response of him playing Coral Tricksters, so that way it won't get that extra counter if I were to search at the end of his turn. Yeah, well, at least Fogbank isn't a threat. And he pitches a land, so Now Karn there was a very nice draw, but I don't really want to play Karn until I have Moat to protect him. So I get down with Moat first. He draws off a Jace, and then he draws 3 more cards off of Garrick. So pretty much he's had an unending stream of drawing 5 cards a turn here. And he plays Mana Reflection, which doubles the amount of mana he has from any permanent. Yeah. So because of the fact that he already has a ton of mana, I decide not to hinder it. He's drawing tons of cards. He's got tons of mana. I'm not going to stop his mana. The game is to only stop the key spells he plays, if I can. So he plays a Goblet. He's going to get a lot of life. I'm okay with that. And then he plays Inexorable Tide. I really thought about this one long and hard. He gets to proliferate whenever he plays a spell, so he's going to be adding counters to Garrick and Jace, and things could get real nasty real fast with that. But I do have Karn, so the game plan here, so he starts proliferating away. So the game plan here is to get Karn down and take out the Planeswalkers, and then just leave him with this proliferation card, but nothing to put counters on that are relevant. But he's quickly adding counters due to the amount of mana he has to Garrick and Jace. Casting spells. I'm going to go ahead and flip through them as long as they don't matter too much. Meanwhile, I'm dealing damage to myself. So I get Karn down and remove the Jace, because him drawing 20 cards probably means I lose. He's going to have to settle for another, what is it? Oh, we'll see how many he gets this turn. I do have to counter the Acidic Slime, though. We can't allow Moat to go away. So he plays Predatory Rampage. So all of his creatures, it's basically like an overrun that doesn't give trample. Forces your opponent to block. And so he activates Garrick and draws 11 more cards. And then plays Bribery. And I make a comment about this. Bribery, Grafdigger, Cage combo is not particularly strong. He did force me to shuffle and put a counter on Cozy's Trickster. So he's Augury Owling and playing Sower. Now, because of the proliferation, Beastmaster Ascension's already maxed out, so his guys are huge. So what's happening is he's going to be able to proliferate Garrick, and his guys are going to stay huge. And not only does he have flyers now that are big, but Garrick is going to be this permanent source of drawing, 13 cards a turn or whatever it is. This is all a very fine way of saying I've basically lost this game. So I get a seal, and the question is, what do I do? So first I take a card out of his hand. I really want to Karn away his Garrick, but I can't afford for Karn to die. Karn is the only thing protecting me from having to counter all of the worst threats. So the problem is I need to protect Karn now, and I really wasn't sure how to do it. So I thought for probably a couple of minutes before I cast that Imperial Seal. And then I went ahead and bounced his Beastmaster Ascension and shrink his guys a little bit. And got down with Humility to shrink them a little bit more. Unfortunately, Cozy's Trickster gets to keep its counters, so it's still pretty buff. And he can continue to proliferate Cozy's Trickster right on up, which he does. And then he was able to draw, thanks to Garrick and his proliferation in this guy, another 10, 12 cards, 12 hand turn. So he plays Fathom Mage, normally would be a threat, but because he would be drawing cards every time he puts a counter on it, every time he evolves. But thanks to humility, it's not annoying. And down comes a protein hydra, kicked 14 times, and he's done. So during my upkeep, in the event of possibly getting a mystical or enlightened, I went ahead and cast stroke, or vampiric, that is. Went ahead and cast stroke during the upkeep into a beautiful hand. So my opponent's asking why I didn't stroke using the other two lands. And he finds that amusing. I found his question to be a good tip-off as to his understanding of the game. So I Karned away his Garrick, finally. So we're going to have a turn where he doesn't draw 10 cards. And I top deck, so I go ahead and hit his hand and just say done. It's up to 86. Could very easily deck me here. So he plays Favor of the Overbeing, which bottom line will give his creature flying and vigilance to go over moat and kill Karn. So this is something that we cannot allow to happen. So I went ahead and forbid it with buyback using the Orb and the Mox. Clearly Orb is worthless here and Mox is near worthless. So they each turned into half of a counterspell. And then with the mana floating, I went ahead and cast Mystical Teachings for Spell Crumple. I got Crumple because I figured he might have something that I specifically would need to put on the bottom of his library. End of turn, I Vampiricked. You know, something like something that he can play from the graveyard or that has flashback. So anyway, I Vampiricked for regrowth. And Karn one of it hard in his hand and then regrow and cast Terminus. And the purpose of this is so that I don't have to worry too much anymore about him drawing Crows and Grip and basically instantly winning the game. So nothing happens. And end of his turn I fact. Go get myself, I take the 3 pile. And on my turn, the actual gameplay required me to wait oh so long. I ultimate Karn, and all the goodies that I had removed from the game show up on my side. I get a Chase and a Garrick. And then to add insult to injury, I get an Isochron with a counterspell on it. And that's it. First turn kill. My opponent gives up. So I hope you enjoyed the game of losing until we win. Here's the deck list as promised, and I'll see you next time.